Welcome, Wargamers, to Day 3 of our Daughters of Khaine week. And today, we're going to be diving into the Sisterhood of Blood. If you missed yesterday's video covering the War Covens, we discussed kind of the internal terminology that War Covens use, and what they do is they refer to the Aelven aspect of their army, the ones that look like traditional elves and humanoids, as the Sisterhood of Blood. These are going to be your Witch Aelves, Sisters of Slaughter, and for today's purposes, I'm going to throw in the Doom Warlocks and the Hag Queens and Slaughter Queens as well. Anything that kind of fits the mold of the, like I said, Elven humanoid kind of form we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start that discussion with the most prominent unit in the army, and that is the Witch Aelves. And these are religiously devout Khaine followers. Everyone in this kind of cult, temple, whatever wording you want to use, religion, is a devout follower of Khaine, but this is the militant arm of that devotion. And when your religion is centered around murder and warfare and bloodshed, your act of worship is battle, is fighting. And to that end, Witch Elves are constantly practicing in mock duels. They do gladiatorial combat against one another, constantly honing and refining their skills in combat. This is their act of worship. They prefer to fight with long daggers, which have a name that I can't pronounce. I'm going to try here. It's the Sciences. That's my attempt right there. And these are steel blades, and each one of them has been blessed by a Hag Queen, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the book goes out of its way to highlight the fact that these units have two natures about them. When they're outside of battle, they are cold, calculating, aloof, even reserved, and one might accidentally describe them as shy type things, maybe like very reserved, very quiet. But in battle, that coin flips and they are in perpetual motion. They are screaming loudly and they are horrifically scary. And this is what happens when a lifetime of discipline, right, making that calculating reserved style, meets an utter lack of self-control in combat. They go wild, and it is a sight to behold. They make up the most numerous ranks of the Daughters of Khaine. When Order armies talk about seeing Daughters of Khaine in their fortifications and in their cities, they're usually referring to Witch Elves because that's, again, the most prominent and the most public, certainly, aspect of the army. Moving on to Sisters of Slaughter. This is actually, if you buy the Witch Elves kit, you can optionally build them as Sisters of Slaughter. And these are the ones that wear the masks. And more than just your basic Khaine worshipper, these are the zealots, right? If we're talking about like Vikings, these are the berserkers, right? That kind of next level, kind of a mini cult that's centered around wild devotion. The Battle Tome even calls them extremists of Khaine. And while the Witch Elves are wild during battle, Sisters of Slaughter are pretty much crazy and exaggerated all the time. And fundamentally, what is a Sister of Slaughter? Well, it's really a Witch Elf that has taken a vow, which I'm going to pronounce as the Druharu. And there's a lot of reasons to take this. You can take it out of revenge, because you want to hunt an enemy, shame because you failed during your time as a Witch Elf, or spite because you want to get as better as a combatant. There's a lot of reasons to do this, but it is a horrific ceremony no matter why you decided to take it. Really what it is they take a mask made out of living metal and they graft it onto your head. They use boiling blood and a spell for bonding, and the pain is so intense that you just hear screaming for hours and hours and hours. The masks don't come off. This is their face now. And when you're done with that, because that's not enough, that's not just the ceremony, you then have to duel against other Sisters of Slaughter. Now you're one of them, and now you have to be able to fight like one of them. So after this hours-long excruciating process, now you have to fight. And if you don't die of blood loss, you become a Sister of Slaughter. And while all Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughters are focused on delivering death as per their religion dictates, the thing that separates the Sisters of Slaughter is that there's this element of religious flagellation against them as well. You'll see this in a lot of motifs where, the religious devout person hurts themselves in order to achieve some kind of higher level of enlightenment, something like that. And that's what this is. This ceremony is, I inflict pain on myself so that I might inflict pain on others, which is a different kind of mindset from the basic Witch Elf. And to that end, to exemplify that, they use a different arsenal of weapons designed to cause pain. In their case, they love using the whip. Again, it's not a weapon that's going to kill you in one shot, like, say, decapitation with a sword, but it is meant to inflict a ton of pain and damage. Now that's actually it for what the Battle Tome officially calls the Sisterhood of Blood, but I want to include a few more units into the discussion because they kind of generally fit that same motif, as well as for things like the leadership, they're just elevated versions of Witch Elves, so I think they kind of fit. But for right now, the next unit I want to talk about is the Doomfire Warlocks. Like I said, they're not technically Sisterhood of Blood, but they are men, and they don't really fit anywhere else inside the organizational structure because there are very few male elves in the Daughters of Khaine temples. When Morathi finds a broken or weak soul from Slaanesh, instead of molding it to be like a Melusai or Caneri, anything like that, she gives them a form of a man to kind of be a servant, right? Because they're broken, they're not as worth as much. She doesn't really want them, but they can do menial tasks. And in addition to that, whenever a baby is born that is male, Morathi has a standing spell, a curse if you will, that makes them weak and feeble, and so she can basically, any men inside their society are like this, very gaunt, very weak. They act as servants to the ladies. They'll do menial tasks like cleaning, construction, sharpening weapons, things like that, the kind of day-to-day tasks that distract from religious devotion. And it is a miserable life. They are worked hard, fed little, and every single day they go up to a giant cauldron, slit themselves, and they offer a blood sacrifice to Khaine. So they're always kind of emaciated, always kind of low on blood, looking gaunt and sad. However, some of them have learned to channel the magic around them. Remember, a lot of these temples are near big gouts of shadow magic, and so it's not unreasonable to say that even if your elven soul is weaker or somehow damaged, that you wouldn't have some kind of intuitive understanding of how magic works, and so some of these can coalesce in groups and begin to channel magic together. And that's why they are a unit of wizards. Now here's the thing, Morathi is very leery of any power that she has not personally doled out. All the people in charge of the rest of the army are there because Morathi has gifted them authority and power and prayer ability. But this is something different. This is just a natural inclination towards an ability. So if you are one of these menial servants that shows an aptitude for this kind of magic, well, rather than just wasting you, that would be just, killing you outright, that'd be a waste of blood and murder and ability. She takes you, puts you on horseback, and makes you a unit, the Doomfire Warlocks. They are fast skirmishers that kind of assist the daughters in battle, doing hit-and-run tactics, shooting magic at other enemies. And really fundamentally, she gives them a chance to die in battle, right? Be useful, and I want you to die because I can't control your magic 100% of the time, and I don't like that I can't control it. That's kind of her mindset. She does have a few mechanisms to kind of guide them, like there is a rune of control, right, where sure, she can probably stop them from using magic on her, but generally speaking, she wants to be in utter dominance of her forces, right? These guys aren't necessarily sold on the religion the same way that the daughters are, and so having that little aspect of control on them, it's great. And she tells them, hey, this is a marker to keep your soul safe from Slaanesh. Actually, it's just a way, it's like a kill switch, right? If things go bad, I can take them out very easily. And that's it for them. And they represent really the only male models that we get in the entire army. They are just the menial servants who have some special abilities. Now we're going to move into talking about the leadership of the Witch Elves. And for those, we have two entries. That's the Hag Queen and the Slaughter Queen. And really both of these, what they are, is they're just Witch Elves that have been elevated to a leadership status. Lieutenants, generals, things like that. And fundamentally, they both act as warriors and priestesses. And as we discussed in the War Covens video, different temples have different job roles and things like that for these kinds of level of management. And so I can't quite nail down for you exactly what each do, but we can talk a little bit about the entries. Where a Hag Queen, one of her assigned duties from Morathi is she creates the poisons that the Witch Elves use. Because Daughters of Khaine use poisons on the enemy, they also have a few strength-enhancing and kind of endurance-enhancing potions they take for themselves. And the Hag Queen is also responsible for maintaining the Cauldron of Blood. If you're not familiar, the Cauldron of Blood has an ability where it rejuvenates and keeps the young, supple beauty of all of the Witch Elves around it. These guys last much longer in terms of natural lifespan than any other elves, and so this is the mechanism with which they do that. So she's responsible for it. Now the Slaughter Queens, on the other hand, really focus on the martial aspect of the army, meaning they are the traditional war leaders, the generals, if you will. The book points out that they are particularly attuned to prayers. However, both of these units can do prayers. They're both priests, and so it doesn't really make them unique, but it calls out specifically that they're more adept at it, if you will. And that is all the units we're going to talk about today. The Sisterhood of Blood, plus the Doomfire Warlocks, and a few little units that are in leadership. So why are these units cool? Now, there's not a lot of lore about them, but collectively I think they're really awesome. Part of it is simply that we have been waiting for elves for so long in Age of Sigmar, and these are the elves we were waiting for. We didn't know about the Melusai or the Khaine. We knew about these guys, and we were so excited to see them come. Right? These are the elves that we can relate to in terms of people coming from Warhammer Fantasy battles. They remind themselves of these characters. And they carry on this awesome religious tone that we saw in so many other battle tomes, including Kill and Pestilence, where the whole army is fueled by zeal and different levels of it, and it manifests itself in different ways. And so even though everyone's on the same page with the same goal, you have a lot of different and competing motivations. And everything here represents a life of discipline, devotion, and sacrifice. And there's something wholly admirable about them, right? Remember, because none of these units are privy to Morathi's lie. And so, Morathi's lie being that Khaine isn't alive. And so when you look at them of like what they believe and as far as what they know is true, they are incredibly devout and almost respectable because they're not conniving. They're not trying to manipulate anyone like Morathi is. These guys are the real deal. They hate chaos. They love battle. In addition to that, they are the threat that you can see. And this is what I mean. The Melusai and Khaine are specifically mentioned that they tend to hide in the shadows. They want to be unseen because they will freak out other Order armies. Whereas Daughters of Khaine as a whole are all over the place. They're in Order cities, walking alongside Free Guild, things like that. And that's because this is the aspect of the army that Morathi wants you to see. They exemplify the army. They give humans and other races, they're the Order armies, a chance to see their discipline, their restraint, what they can do, why you should trust Morathi and why you want her help. Those kinds of things. Morathi relies heavily on the Sisterhood of Blood to kind of be ambassadors for her and her cause in the mortal realms. To complement that, they also allow the other Order armies to see just how brutal, devastating, and horrifying Daughters of Khaine are in combat, because they truly are a terrific spectacle when it comes to war. Every action that they do outside of war seems like games or a show, right? Oh, they're doing a sword dance, or they're doing gladiatorial stuff. And what people don't understand is these are complex rituals to harness and train their abilities for war, so that when the war starts and battle's ready, they're always primed, they're always warmed up, ready to go. They also convey a lethality and a beauty in equal measure. Again, this is the enticing part of the army that Morathi wants to show you. Oh look, we got it all together, we're pretty, nothing's weird, no mutations, no snake bodies, those kinds of things. Trying to keep everything seeming normal, well, they act as kind of the Elven ambassadors to that end. But it is noted many times that other Order armies are kind of off-put by them, meaning they might seem quiet and somewhat disciplined and respectable, but anyone who's seen these girls in battle is terrified of them because they see what they're capable of. And it's this combination of cool discipline and like ferocity that is so incredible, and it really makes this army complete. And I'm so excited to see them in books when other characters that we relate to a little bit more, like Free Guild and those kinds of things, are interacting with them, because I want to see the stark difference in their personalities and personas. So friends, those are my thoughts on the Sisterhood of Blood, the Witch Elves, the Sisters of Slaughter, Doom Warlocks, Hag Queens, and Slaughter Queens. Not a lot of lore individually, but when you put it all together, there's some really good stuff here and awesome ideas for army building when you combine it with the different temples and their focuses and things like that. And if you have an Age of Sigmar lore question, I would love to hear it. Go ahead and click subscribe and leave it in the comments down below. I read every single comment and respond to as many as possible, and I use them as inspiration for future videos. Of course, this week I am going ahead and full steam reviewing the Daughters of Khaine battle tome, but I will get back to normal videos here pretty shortly. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy wargaming. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I want to introduce you to some awesome folks. These are my patrons over on Patreon, and they make this show possible by their direct support of me to buy battle tomes and Black Library books and all the material I need and the hardware support that I need to make this stuff possible. And if you'd like to join them, go ahead and click over to the Patreon page, to the link in the description down below, and you'll be introduced to a really awesome community of people talking about the hobby, sharing what they're painting. I invite them to be part of polls to decide what content comes next. I raffle off every battle tome that I review, and we're having some great fun and discussions over there. So go ahead and check it out. Now, if you can't support in that way, that's completely fine. I'm just so glad that you watched this video here today. And if you have an Age of Sigmar lore question, go ahead and click subscribe and leave it in the comments down below. I read every single question and comment. I respond to as many as I possibly can, but I use them all as inspiration for future videos. So go ahead and do that now. And I look forward to seeing you guys on my next Age of Sigmar lore video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.